The ModernJeeper Show, the show about Jeeps, Jeeping, and Jeepers. Well, hey, Modern Jeepers, another episode of the ModernJeeper Show with me, Matson from Metalcloak, and Mr. Modern Jeeper, Corey Osborne.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and Rockstar Jeep Girl, Jessy.
Hi, how are you?
Good. And then a couple of hanger-ons that just hang around all the time, so you can't get rid of them.
We just can't shake them. We got Curtis, our ARS brand guy, and we've got Philip Thorpe, our forum guy, who were with us on the last podcast last week. If you missed that, well, I don't know if you really missed anything, but it was definitely a fun episode.
It was definitely a fun episode. Yeah, those are good, awesome. Good to see you guys. Now, it's kind of funny the way you're sitting there because you got one on either shoulder. So it's like you got these little extra heads. Dun, 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 you know.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, hey, good to see you all. Now, you are having like an adventure of a lifetime because as I was going and doing birthday stuff, you guys were out doing wheeling stuff. So tell me about the San Juans. How did it go?
Yeah, we just finished 3 days ish in Colorado with our ModernJeeper San Juan adventure. And we had such a great trip and such a good group, but we always have good groups.
Yeah.
I think everybody really had a blast. We had a really busy 2 days and some long days. You know, we took a group of about 10, 11 rigs through what I call is pretty much the highlights of the San Juan Jeep trails. And there was some traffic going on, but there's a lot of stuff going on still in these small towns, Uray and Silverton and Lake City, and even in Montrose. We took the group over into Animas Forks, which is a pretty popular kind of a centralized location in the middle of the San Juans, kind of a mining town hub, if you will. But it was really cool because there was a public lands officer there from BLM, and he's actually switching roles and working for the Forest Service as well. I got to spend some time with him talking about how busy everything's been and what we're doing. And it was really refreshing to talk with him and have him go, he was kind of thrilled, our group of Jeeps. And we talked a little bit about what we do and tread lightly and all of those things. But it was fun. I think everybody had a really good time. I have like 4 pages of notes every time I go up there, I think of other things that may interest people, maybe not, but a lot of mining history, a lot of characters up there. There's been some recent tragedies up there in the San Juans, and a shout out to the folks that are involved or had family members. But it's that time of year. It's a busy place. A lot of side-by-sides, a lot of motorcycles, and a lot of inexperienced Jeepers. So yeah, for folks that are, again, anywhere you're traveling off-road, be careful, keep an eye. I mean, the San Juans are tough because everybody wants to look up and we want to look at the mountains and we want to take pictures. Yet those shelf roads, we've talked about this in the past. Hey, are those shelf roads real?
Oh yeah, it's a long way down. A long way down.
Yeah.
So in other words, you shouldn't be going, hey, look at that. Oh no.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
it's hard because a lot of those shelf roads are single track or just one lane. And then you come up to somebody and, we had a pretty good experience with meeting people on those tight lanes and getting around each other. But we had to help a number of people that were afraid to back up or didn't understand, why they were even in the place that they were. They were still wandering around in the San Juans, wondering how they got there. We actually came up on a group of cross bike motorcycles. What do you call them?
Enduro.
Adventure bikes kind of things. And there were 3 of them. And one of the gentlemen was not as an experienced rider, but his two friends left him, and we were on Ophir Pass on one of the. It's a very steep pass, but it's a lot of shale and talus and really loose. That guy laid his bike down in front of our group. We let him pass us, and he was struggling, and he laid his bike over, and we went up there to help him. And when I got to him, he was out of breath. His friends had left him. He was in pretty bad shape and just exhausted. And so we kind of helped him best we could. You know, I kind of gave him a little push on his motorcycle and told him, you got to stay in it. But he had no business being up there. But I get it. Like, everybody wants to go do those things because they've seen it on YouTube. So obviously they have the experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they stayed at a Holiday Inn last night or whatever it is.
Yeah. They stayed at the Holiday Inn Express. So I mean, they got that going for them.
They got that going for them. Well, it is interesting. Now, that's your perspective. I want to hear from your two talking heads. Like, this was their first time out. What did you think?
You know, it's so, you know, the last trip I did was Death Valley, and it was just so different. And, you know, it's really been fun. You know, you got to pay attention. We spent 9 hours on the trail, and we got back. I said, I'm not physically wore out. I'm mentally wore out, because you're concentrating the whole entire time, you know, and it's just pretty neat. And then now we got into Moab. I've never been to Moab, and it's just, I feel like I'm in a John Wayne movie. You know, it's just, all the backdrop is different. It's so different, but it's so fun in the same sense, you know. So going back out today before I go home. So I'm really excited.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, the San Juans was a nice change of scenery, because I've done several of these adventures, and this it's the most dangerous beauty I've ever been on, for sure, because you're wanting to take pictures and look around, but if you veer 6 inches off the road, you're taking a roll,
A long roll.
But all the mining towns, that to me, that's forever fun to go see the old history and how America was made. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. But yeah, those shelf roads are no joke. One screw up, you're done.
Mhm.
Or a Jeep that's just too wide.
Now, what did you wheel out there, Philip?
Rockstar.
And what was it like
Yep.
going on something like that in a vehicle you're totally unfamiliar with?
It really wasn't bad. It set
wasn't?
up real well.
Yeah.
I felt right at home, to be completely honest.
Nice.
Now,
Good.
Rimrocker I did in my rental Jeep, so that was a whole different experience.
It's been a very fun experience.
Yeah, for those of you out there that typically would buy Jeeps that come off of a rental fleet, be very diligent in your going through your buying process.
Well, yeah, get the insurance is what you're saying.
Well, so.
Trust me, I learned my lesson. Always get your insurance. It doesn't
Yes.
cost
Yes.
that much for the peace of
Mhm.
mind that you have
Yes.
when you come.
Yeah, and
return
you know,
that
Jessy drove her stock Jeep, her brand new JL Funshine. She drove it all through the San Juans, and it's kind of interesting to me because there are spots where people would say, "Well, you wouldn't want to take a rental Jeep up there," but it really does. Seat time is everything, and experience is everything. So, while you can have a stock Jeep, should it be up there? Well, absolutely. But it should be driven by somebody who's got some experience behind the wheel. You can do some amazing things in a stock Jeep if you know how to drive.
Mhm.
True.
Of course, you can do some really stupid things in a stock Jeep if you don't. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the inverse is true. You can do really stupid things in a fully built Jeep.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we've never
Yeah, I
seen
was
that
told
happen.
several times they didn't know how the heck I was driving with 33-inch tires.
Yeah, I mean, 33-inch
They
tires
were
and no lift.
amazed.
Again, there was a few spots where it would have been more comfortable to have a little bit bigger tire and
Yeah.
a little bit of suspension underneath her, but she did just fine.
And no scratches.
No scratches.
Not even underneath. Nothing.
Not even. Wow. Dang.
But
Girl.
again, that is not indicative of everybody that goes up there. That's for sure.
Exactly.
But you know, you've been through a few times. You know the lines. Got good people. So how does it work when you guys go up there? Were you tail gunner, Jessy?
Yes.
And yeah, nice.
Yes.
So once again,
I ate
Corey's
all
in
the
front,
best.
not getting dusty.
Yeah.
I gotta know. Have you
Talking.
put your windshield wipers on yet?
I have not. They're sitting in the garage. Yeah. Have you?
No, I haven't received mine yet.
Oh,
No.
see.
I haven't received mine
Oh.
yet. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
I did get mine, and they came in this massively crushed box. But there's been a lot of. It's kind of funny in some of the forums I've seen where people are talking about them and going, "You guys are out of your minds paying $100 for these windshield wipers and blah blah blah." But like I think we talked before, $100 and literally you get 4 blades.
Mm.
So even if they didn't work and didn't have this cool water feature, it's still worth it because that's what regular wiper blades cost. So
well,
yeah,
and that's what I'm curious. Once you get them on there, you got to do a hose test. Like, how do they actually
yeah,
work outside of the cool factor? How do they actually work
right,
as wipers? Are they good
Mhm.
wipers? Because
right,
there's some crappy wipers out there too, and it could have been that the whole wiper kind of sucks. It has a cool feature, but really, it just sucks.
right,
Yeah, we don't know.
right.
So speaking of which, you sent a text over about a little recent tragedy out there, and I mean, there's been a lot of these recently, but you sent this one over about a family in there. Was it the Cherokee or three
They
people
were
in
in a Gladiator.
Oh, they were in the Gladiator. It was Gladiator, the white Gladiator. That's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
what was the area that happened in?
So that is just above, they're going up Yankee Boy Basin, just above what's called the Camp Bird Mine. And it's a very, very popular place. In fact, it's one of the most photographed areas up in that whole shelf road as you start to climb above Camp Bird Mine. It's also one of that spot where people are saying is where they went off and where the state patrol, what that spot they were talking about is probably one of the most extreme cliffs up there, which it kind of bugs me that in that spot that somebody would go off because it's probably the worst spot. I mean, up there, it's the steepest for sure. You're not going to survive something like that, and they were coming down. It's my understanding. So, and the gentleman driving was he lived in Uray. Um,
Mm.
so I don't know the specifics, but it was a bad deal, and we had a few people reaching out because they heard it was a Gladiator, and a few people sent me texts going, "Are you okay?" Yeah, it wasn't us,
Not
um,
us.
but
And was he
yeah,
on
it's such a
there's looks like there was a highway that goes through there, right? That or is that all dirt roads back there?
all dirt,
Okay,
all dirt.
so
Mhm.
it's that's there's nothing finished, even because it's deceptive when you're looking at the map. Like, I was trying to figure it out, but it's all dirt roads back
Yeah.
there.
All dirt roads, and it's around one of the corners. There's a significant spot up there, and there's a big rock overhang that a couple of years ago people were like, "Oh no, they're going to blow the photographed rock off of the trail," and it's just a spot where the Jeeps you kind of go underneath this big rock overhang. Well, it's just below that spot, and
Mm.
again, it's you're on the edge of, I don't know, probably 300 or 400 feet above where you're going to stop if you go
Wow.
off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bad deal.
But you get too close to an edge like that, and if it hooks a tire, well, it's taken everything. There's nothing there to stop it. So
Mm.
the fact that you'd have to really not be paying attention, or if you're pointing something out on the trail, or who knows, you have a something wrong health wise, and you lose it. There was
You don't want to
an
be checking
ATV accident.
you don't want to be checking your phone while you're up there. Hey, look, I got a
No,
text
no.
message. Whoa.
Yeah, hey, I got service, man. I should go on YouTube and see what this road's like in front of me. Yeah, there was another accident that was tragic just a few days before that, up on the other side over on Engineer Pass, involving a side by side. And yeah, gentlemen, they went off the side of this edge and rolled down about 300 feet. And yeah, it's just, it happens so fast, and people don't they take it for granted that they're safe and they've got experience, but things can happen even to me. And I tell a story when people want me to take them up Black Bear Pass. I've been up in that area for a long time, and luckily, knock on wood, nothing ever real horrible has ever happened. For me, that just makes the odds higher that something is going to happen. um, I feel like every time you go up there, you kind of cheat the odds. And if you had a good experience and nothing happened, then bonus. But you do it repetitively. If you go up there enough, eventually you're going to come across stuff and make, and that's what happens. I mean, you start to take things for granted.
It makes me nervous about the whole ModernJeeper Adventure up there. The more you talk about it, it's like you got to have you need to really vet the people that are
Yep.
signing up for this event.
We have that conversation.
We have that conversation every year, and I specifically won't go over Black Bear, not because it's so crazy. It's actually a very mild road, but I won't do it as part of our adventure. If folks want me to take them up there, I will, but it's outside the scope of what we do as far as the adventure goes. And I've had that conversation with others who take people up there. I think from a liability standpoint, it's just not. I mean, the rental companies don't let you take rental Jeeps up there. They don't do tours over it. Again, and it's not because it's so extreme. It's just the smallest mistake can be very, very tragic. So
Right.
for us, it's not worth that gamble.
Right. No, makes total sense.
But YouTube says that anybody can go up there. So there you go. I mean,
Well, YouTube is right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
YouTube.
absolutely.
It goes YouTube, TikTok, God. Isn't that the order these days?
They
YouTube,
are.
TikTok, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the rules. Then yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's so after the San Juans, we kind of had a day break, switched vehicles, cleaned vehicles, and regrouped, and then drove. There was 4 of us over the Rim Rocker, which is the trail from Montrose to Moab, the same trail that Jessy did last year with her group of women. We did that same thing kind of in a much quicker manner. We made pretty good time coming over, and did a little bit of pre-running for future stuff, and maybe we eliminated some things and can add some things, but that's also another amazing route for those who haven't traveled it. And Philip did it in his rental Jeep, and it's fully capable to do that trail. But again, it's a lot of history, scenery, great views. Yeah, the Rim Rocker is a neat trail to take from that side of the mountain all the way over to Moab. We did bypass some rain and stayed away from some of the heavier rain, because yesterday here in Moab it rained pretty good. So yeah, we kind of did a little dance and skirted it. Good thing we weren't up in the LaSalle's when this rainstorm came through, because it would have been bad.
Wow. So what have you guys done out of Moab? What trails did he take you on, Philip?
We ran
Chicken corners.
Hurrah
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, we ran chicken corners up to Hurrah Pass.
So I just took them up to the top of Hurrah Pass yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
it's
beautiful.
a quick trip and it's super scenic.
Mm-hmm.
They took me
Yeah.
out, let me be a tourist.
Yeah.
Nice.
He was in heaven.
Yeah, I was in heaven.
Nice.
Literally.
Nice. So speaking of Moab, just yesterday we posted a couple things because I got an email from Doug with the Red Rock 4-wheelers. Like, oh, what is this? Click on it and then go to their homepage and discover that there's another opportunity for the world of Moab to be screwed over. And so so for all of you out there, I'm not going to get into the details about it other than let you know that there is constant planning happening between the Bureau of Land Management, who owns most of the land out there. There's constant planning happening. The thing that happens whenever they do these plans and they do these long-term goals and the long-term commitments and long-term travel plans, et cetera, is if the wrong people get all their input in, because this is government and government does listen to input, if the wrong people get the input in, then the wrong plan gets made. And that wrong plan would, in this case, the environmentalists and those who would rather have Moab be a wilderness area, which means no mechanized vehicle whatsoever, whether it's a Jeep or a bicycle, a motorcycle, anything, they will always have their input. So they're always there. They're vigilant. They make a living off of this vigilance that they have. They make a living off of constantly being in communication with the powers that be. So that's what happens. So you start having this travel plan as well. The input has to happen from us, because if the wrong people make the input, then they make a plan based on what they think most people want. Then next thing you know, the use of trails out in Moab it's changed, it's shut down, it's modified, it's not what it is. And I don't care what direction. Oh, it's just a little bit here or a little bit there. We've seen over time that when a little bit changes, when they just make a slight modification to how they do it, you really only can wheel during certain hours, or only during the week, or when there's only a certain, or we don't want more than X number of rigs on the trail at any one time, or now you need a permit for every trail. All those little kind of concepts and ideas make it harder and harder for future generations to enjoy, because they've just taken a little bit more freedom away. So in this case, it's just an opportunity to go and comment. It's a process, and I understand Blue Ribbon Coalitions has a website. On their website, there's actually a form that you can do it a little bit easier. There is a process, and you go to the Red Rock Four Wheelers website, which is rr4w.com, homepage, all about it. And the Red Rock Four Wheelers literally say this is one of the most important opportunities right now to prevent changes to how we use the trail, right? And it's in their huge best interest, because this is what they do. They wheel out there. Most of those trails have been made by guys from Red Rock Four Wheelers. Most of what we do to enjoy Moab came from the Red Rock Four Wheelers. So listen to them. And if they're concerned about this, we all need to be concerned about it. So whether you've done Moab, it's on your bucket list, Eastern Jeep Safari is something you want to do one day, you need to go to the website, go to Red Rock Four Wheelers, rr4w.com. Go through the list, just read everything I have posted there. There's a couple of processes, but you can either send a letter, you can send an email, or you can go to this e-planning website, click on that link there for e-planning, and make a comment there. So some people have been asking for a lot more details, like what the maps are and all that kind of stuff. It really just comes down to, I don't have those details. There's probably more information on the Blue Ribbon Coalition site too, but really it comes down to, a change is being made and you need to be vocal about it.
That's right. Yeah. And I apologize to our followers, because of course, with the last week and a half, we've been pretty involved with our adventure stuff. So I will get before today is out, there will be a story about, and a link on the ModernJeeper.com page as well for from the Blue Ribbon Coalition and Red Rock Four Wheelers, with those links as well. So listening to this now, the link will already be there, and you can go check it out there. And again, we've talked about this in the past, all of these organizations that are fighting this fight behind the scenes while we go out and we run around and we enjoy these areas. These are the folks that are actually having a voice to the powers to be, to say, hey, no, look, we are still using these trails. It does bring money into these communities. These environments are being taken care of the best they can. And it's like we talked about this land acquisition in Pennsylvania. What a good way to manage their lands, by having people use it and then recovering some of the funds that people are paying to use the lands in order to preserve it. So I know it sounds so backwards, but a lot of these areas, there's not a lot of money out there, and these environmentalists really want to just take the land and shut it down. That's an easy way to save money, but they're not thinking about what that's going to do to the recreation industry for these communities.
Well, they also preface it on just it being the Gemini bridges, and out there in that area, there are so many trails that go into those areas that if that shuts down, the other shut down.
Right.
So don't look into, oh, well, I don't go out there. So
yeah, I don't go out there. And like Matson, like you just said, a little bit of what they want, if that's granted to them, it's just a step down that path to, it's kind of like, even something like gas prices, where, it got up to stupid, crazy high prices. And then when they bring it back, 50 cents, we all think, oh, well, this is great.
Right.
At least it's not what it was. Well, no, but it's still $2 a gallon more than where we started. So,
right. It's the frog in the boiling pot. Right. And you eventually a little bit of time. And this is what they do. And this is, it's happened continuously. It almost happened in the Rubicon Trail. They were continuously doing little bit until finally people went, whoa, wait a second. We can foresee the future, and the future is no trail. So speaking of the Rubicon Trail, of course, it has been closed. because we have
Right.
fires out there again. And last year it
Mm.
was closed because there were fires out there again. Georgetown got evacuated. Latest notification yesterday was another region was being evacuated, mandatory evacuations. It's crazy. But we were actually going to hit the trail last week to go out to the Rubicon Trail Foundation property on my birthday. We ended up not doing that because one of the rigs wasn't quite ready to go do it to test some new product. Like, okay, we'll do it this week. So we're going to do it. We were supposed to do it yesterday, and couldn't do it. It's like, once again, the trail
And
is closed.
do you guys have any rain in your forecast at all?
Not up here. They had the big hurricane rains down in SoCal because the guys just got back from going and
Oh,
doing
right.
the JK experience, the Jeep bash down there in Huntington Beach, which was a great
Mhm.
CTI event. But on their way down, they got poured on out there out in Temecula, going to do something at Jeep Doctor, another little CTI stop, and got poured on. So, but no, not up here. No, it's like it was cloudy for a few days. No rain though.
Well, it's just been a crazy year with the heat and of course the East Coast is getting flooded and we're burning up in the West, and yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah. But it's interesting you pointed out about the land and the East Coast land, because there are all the comments, and some of the comments specifically about Save Moab on our Facebook page and on Instagram page. Many people don't understand the Bureau of Land Management and what we deal with in the West with the Bureau of Land Management. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's something like, isn't that like 70 or 80% of Nevada is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. It's not owned
Yeah,
by
it's
the
all
state of
BLM
Nevada.
land.
It's all BLM
Right.
land. Bureau of Land Management owns these big swatches of land across the West. On the East Coast, you guys don't have any public lands. On the East, you don't have a lot of, it's all privately owned. So if you have parks and stuff, but there is no public lands that are just big swatches on. There are forests, right? There's national forests and there's state forests. But from the standpoint of BLM land or wheeling land, it's, all your parks and stuff are private. Out on the West, it is giant swaths of lands that are owned by the Bureau of Land Management for all different kinds of reasons, right? But they own the land. Even where King of the Hammers happens, right? That's all BLM land, right? So the thing about BLM land, the cool thing is currently you have a lot of use of that, right? There's very little restrictions.
Mhm.
You go to Moab and you don't want to go pay $800 a night at a hotel, and you got yourself a trailer, you can go park your rig out anywhere you want on BLM land and just camp there. There's no rules. You don't have to go pay fees. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to go to an organized campsite. You can just go anywhere you want on BLM land. So there's a lot of openness to it, a lot of rules, a lot of ease of use, things about carrying firearms and stuff like that. But just on the flip side of that, because it is BLM land, those that know government, we've said it earlier, those that know government and those whose job it is to push an environmental agenda know how to get the BLM to do that. And that's what they do. And this is how they do it surreptitiously. And then they make it a little bit of a, you have a bunch of Twitter bots all out there saying, woo, we need to save this land, or we need to make Moab. And everybody starts thinking that that's the popular message. And next thing you know, Moab gets shut down. But they do it incrementally, a little bit at a time, bit by bit, by bit by bit. And then one day you go, hey, I was going to go to Moab, but yeah, they took that away from me. But, it happened. You saw it happening, but you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. Again, it's that whole story we keep trying to reiterate, is to be involved and talk to, these places aren't, it's not scary. You can go into a Forest Service office, you can go into the BLM office in your local area and actually introduce yourself and talk to these people. They're
No.
not looking at us like, hey, you guys are just out there wrecking
They're all
things.
mean.
They're
all
they're
meanies.
not mean people.
They're meanies.
It's
They're
that
meanies.
authority figure, everybody.
Authoritarian. You walk
Yeah.
in there and say, get out of my office. No, actually, they are amazing. And
Yeah, and it's not like, you don't walk into a police station drunk. You don't go into a BLM or a Forest Service office with some attitude and chip on your shoulder about how they're taking everything away from us.
but
You can
Barney
develop
used to
these
always walk in.
relationships.
Barney used to always walk into the police station drunk and sleep it off in the jail cell. Isn't that the way you're supposed to do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just threw our listeners way out. They're like, who?
Who?
What?
Purple dinosaur? What?
Barney? What are you talking about? Yeah.
Oh, there's some stories about the purple dinosaur being drunk too, but that's a whole nother
Oh,
thing.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, if you're old enough to remember.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it is. It's interesting. Now on a different note, 4xe, like that's the big Jeep news that happened in the last few days, right? Did you guys
Yep.
watch the show? Watch the special?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I gotta say, it's kind of interesting because my first reaction was, well, gee, the Recon side profile looks. Let's face it, the Recon is targeting the Bronco guys. If you're going out there and you want a Bronco, now you have the option of a Recon. You can have a Jeep. Now it's fully electric, and it is a Jeep. Now, but tell me some of the specs, because let's share some of the specs. What are the mileage that they're going to expect to get out of this thing?
Oh my gosh, I don't have that stuff in front of me, but yeah,
Well, I was expecting you did, because I don't either.
Of course.
No, I mean, again, like you said, the what I saw was the initial unveiling kind of, and them talking about it, but it was that the extreme pushback that I saw on social media was that it was ugly and nobody would buy it. I mean, they didn't even go into the specs. It was more along the lines of, this is what you get when you cross a like a H2 with a Bronco, and people were like, that's not a Jeep, and I'll never buy one. And so I don't know the true loyalists, but again,
dude, the Renegade people. This is what we said about the Renegade, and there's a lot of those toaster
People were
Jeeps out
jacking
there,
them up.
right? I think people will buy this. I think families will buy this. I think people will buy it thinking that they can do more than they can with it, because it's not going to be so highly modifiable. I would expect that the modification capabilities that would be a lot less than the Bronco, because they made the Bronco, highly modifiable, easy replace fenders, that sort of thing. Most likely it will not be. It does have removable doors. It's kind of cool. They don't really do anything. I guess it's not a removable hard top, so it's a little different there, right? But I don't know. I think people will buy it. I think it's kind of a cool little thing in its own way. Question's going to be is what's the mileage on it? How much are you going to get on it? What can you charge? Can you charge at a Tesla station, or you got to go find some other place? I mean, what is the real, like, long-term use of this?
right. Well, and we talked about what our buddy Sean Holman did on the Rivian, and his testing of it and driving it out into the wilderness, and taking trips in it. For me, I just don't think we're there yet. And this push towards all electric. I mean, California, you guys keep coming up as being the focus of, hey, it's so hot, you got to shut down your air conditioning because of the extreme heats, and please don't charge your electric cars, but everybody needs to go out and buy an electric car.
Shut up. Just stop ridiculing. Shut up. Don't be so logical.
It's so odd to me, and I just don't.
It's
I
actually
think you're right, though. I think
it's devious in a very short way, because if you still have to get to work and you can't charge your car because it's all electric, you've got to ride your bicycle, you've got to take public transportation. I mean, let's face it, they don't want people living in the cities to be using. They would rather have everybody in the city stop driving cars and taking public transportation, especially in the highly concentrated areas, right? So it's
and what's funny about that is, will people do that? And I don't think people will, because they don't want their freedom invaded on. They have a car, they know they can drive it, and then now they're going to get told they can't.
Or can they
wow,
drive?
that's a lot of control.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it is sometimes in the big cities, right? And that's all they're focusing on. They're really focusing on, I mean, the reality is they don't really care what the heck the guys up in Northern California do. They don't really care what people are out there. Guy's gonna be driving his big diesel truck with black smoke pouring out. They don't really care about that. What they care about is the concentrated areas where there's lots of people. And that's where they're going to be, otherwise, if they really cared about us, they wouldn't have spent $100 billion on a super train to nowhere. They would have just expanded I-5 into 3 lanes instead of 2 lanes. They got the land. It has plenty of easement already. The land's there to expand the freeway to 3 lanes so that more people can go back and forth. But no, They want to go to this other vision of we're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on alternative transportation that you won't use. But,
Right.
oh, by the way, is the train electric? I wonder.
Well, and it's, I was sitting here thinking, what about how come we don't see electric side by sides yet? They're the noisy ones, right? They're the ones
That's
causing
a
all
good
these
point.
problems.
That is a good
That is
point.
a good point.
Yeah, it is.
Why do we have to have them in our vehicles that we're driving up now? I mean, a side by side, you'd think that would be the perfect. All of a sudden, these are quiet. They have to go to some little charging station, but again, that invades our freedoms. That takes away this. I can go run around anywhere I want, whenever I want.
Mm.
But again, are we really there with? We had a conversation. Who were we just talking to about solar panels and the life of the solar panel? Oh, it was with our friend Mike Upton. Mike is going to build his own solar system on his house in California, and he had to get a permit, and he's going to do it for like a fraction of the cost of what a company wanted to install a solar system at his house. But again, there's a lifespan, and these people still don't understand that a solar panel doesn't grow out of the ground. Mike had come across some information that basically talked about how much goes into building a solar cell and a battery to store that energy. There's far more resources used into create those products than they ever recover.
Mhm.
And nobody even thinks about that. We don't even talk about it.
Yeah, well, when you try to talk about it, people shut you up because the reality is it is that why. So who did I recently? Somebody said this, and I don't remember. I can't claim who it was, but the reason. I mean, the great invention of gasoline was that it took a lot less energy to produce it for what it produced. Right, the ratio of what you got back for it versus what you put in. But in the
Right.
electrical world and everything else, what you put into it, it is so hard to create electricity. Whether it's the Hoover Dam doing it, which can't do it much right now, right? Whether it's the
Right.
Hoover Dam or wind or nuclear. This is why nuclear is so good, because it's efficient. It is the greatest
Yes.
producer of electricity as far as energy in versus energy out. There's a net gain, right? But most of these other things, there isn't a net gain. The once you have solar, wind up, great. You have solar panels and they do production, but what it costs to produce a solar panel. Once you have wind power up, sure, but maintenance of all that, maintaining it, keeping it going, the energy to create that in the first place. You already realize, guys, every one of those blades on wind power got trucked out here by a big diesel truck, right? The
Yeah.
energy to put it with the cranes and everything to put it together. There may be, it's like the cost of acquisition of it's that idea of cost of acquisition of a customer acquisition cost. Same thing here is like energy acquisition cost. Maybe at some point it becomes net positive. But for more corporations that are into this and trying to do this, they don't really care because it's simply a write-off. They will lose money in the process of putting all the infrastructure costs into place, because the benefit is you're building these things, this infrastructure, we're going to give you tax credits, that sort of thing, for building the infrastructure. They don't really care about that part of it because they're getting money back, or it's simply an expense off of their bottom line, right? So now they're building up this infrastructure. They're getting benefit from there. The problem is when it doesn't work. The problem is when there's no sun out. The problem is when there's no wind. The problem is when you're in Texas and there's a freeze and nothing works because they're frozen, right? That's what they're not thinking about. But the flip side of it is actually probably cheaper for them to run a wind farm than it is for them to run a nuclear power plant. So they don't
Right. They're
mind
thinking
shutting.
about things. They're definitely thinking long term about how they can recoup that cost. And like you said, once something's built, then they can just sit back and do nothing. This is a historical issue. I mean, we go back and talk about the mining days. It's not like there's no more gold or silver left in the mountains. There's still gold and silver up there. But how much money does it take to go up and extract it to be
Right.
worthwhile? So in the early days when these miners were up there, and they were pulling a couple of, if they got an ounce of gold, heavens, that was a lot. And then as mining claims were consolidated into larger operations, we went from placer mining into hard rock mining. Placer mining was the guy out there with a pan in a stream, and he's just finding some flakes here and there, maybe a nugget. Hard rock mining, they could move a lot more ore, but it also costs a lot more money. And it's no different than to what we do today. You can make yourself all the manufacturers of Jeep parts. We don't people, as a matter of fact, as a manufacturer, we don't build one part and try to sell it. That would be that's not efficient. You want to build one part that everybody wants, and you want to make 1,000 of them and sell all of those.
Right.
I think folks forget that, we get a lot of questions all the time. Hey, can Metalcloak make this? Well, they can. The question is, would it sell? Well, they'd sell one to me. Well, gosh, that's great. That really doesn't, that's not how this works.
Right. A lot of it is, and it's true too. I mean, you've been thinking about platforms because there's so many variations. Like, okay, are we going to make a product specific to the 4xe, or a product specific to the 392, or a product specific to one particular variation, when we have to know, okay, is that going to be enough of those sold to make it worthwhile, right? But that is, that's the question you have about any time when you're trying to develop something and make something work. It's interesting you talk about the mining because, and you've seen this, there's kind of trends going back and forth, and I'm not actually sure what's currently happening in the gold world. Gold's up at right $1,800, something like that. Usually when it's down to $800, all these mines are shut down. It started getting up to $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. All of a sudden it's worthwhile again to get in there.
Right.
But then inflation comes in, cost of labor goes up and everything else. And now all of a sudden it's not as much. So even at $1,800, $1,900 an ounce, it's not necessarily worth it for some of these companies to then go through that process of trying to mine, right?
Right.
Where's that sneeze button?
Sneeze button. It's again, we try to build our Jeeps so that they have a variety of use. You don't want to build something that is I can go climb this wall. But we used to build like that. Like we'd have an obstacle that we couldn't get over, so we'd build a rig in order to get over that one obstacle. Well, now we're more in an environment, I think, at least my opinion, is that we want our rigs to be useful in a variety of situations, which is why the overlanding thing has come around. Our whole Rocklander concept comes from this, hey, I can go on some fairly extreme stuff and still go out in the middle of nowhere and spend the night.
Right.
I think that evolution in how we use things, that falls through everything we do, and everything that we've seen. I don't know that, in the trails in the San Juans, I don't know how many 4xe we actually even saw. We saw far more diesel powered rigs than we did, and maybe one or two 392s. Again, I think that there are people that will buy whatever Jeep makes because there's an appeal by a certain segment of our society. But I think for the most part, we all want to build something that is going to be useful long term. I want to know what the people with fully electric Jeeps do, in 4 or 5 years down the road when Jeep says, hey, now we're going to have hot swappable batteries. Oh, but the Jeep you bought, you can't do that with. Again, it's the advancements in technology. It's new laptops, it's new phones. All of this technology changes so much that in a couple of years, it's outdated. And that's where we're at now with these new Jeeps, I think, is the technology is changing so fast. How useful long-term is it going to be? In 3 years, we may have a different type of battery. Oh, but your Jeep can't use this battery. So you're going to have to turn that one in, and we'll sell you another Jeep that is now more current.
That's an incredible point you just touched on, because we are a society, like, let's just say that I just got an iPhone 13, beginning of the year. Cool. I had an iPhone 7 forever. And then one of my employees around here came by and said, hey, so you're going to get the new 14? Like, it's coming out. No, like, he fully expected that I was going to go get the 14 because that's what he did. Like, every year he gets the latest phone. No, I I'm not going to need that for a long time, I don't think, right? He was somewhat disappointed by it, by my statement, but it was, but we've become the society where it's you got a 13, so you're going to buy a 14. You'll sell your 13 or recycle it or turn it in or do whatever they do with it to get your next phone. It's a throwaway society. I mean, think about the when you do the Apple leasing program or whatever leasing program with it, where you just with every 2 years you can turn in your phone, or every year you can turn in your phone and get a new one. So what you hit on there is interesting. We've become a society that we're not buying something for 10, 20, 30 years. We're buying
Nope.
it for short-term gain. So are these basically throwaway Jeeps? I mean, is this basically a turn in at you? And let's face it, if that's the case, nobody should buy these. Every one of you should lease these. If you're going to buy
Yes.
a 4xe, if you're going to buy an electric rig, you should do it on a lease. And that way you can turn it
Well,
in
and Jeep-
and get the next one.
Yep. Jeep even said that when they came out with the 4xe, that it's better to lease these because in 3 years that, who knows where the technology will be. And they were
Right.
actually recommending that.
So what
and
is
again,
Jeep going to do about it when you turn it in? Like, are we creating a whole fleet of Jeeps out there, rigs or whatever? And I don't know. I mean, my mom drives a RAV4, right? The RAV4 has the same kind of hybrid technology as the Prius, and I think hers like 10 years old, maybe older. So, and she had to replace a module recently. It wasn't the battery; it was more of a part of the computer module. And it was $3 or $4 grand to replace that module for a vehicle that probably cost $3 or $4 grand. I mean, it was incredibly expensive, but but that's what you're going to run into. So yet the battery technology seems to still be working. So who knows? Who knows what the long term is going to be on these? But man, I think we're just making throwaway Jeeps.
Yeah, I'm fearful of. I mean, how much? Remember what we all went through with Windows 95 and Windows 98, and it became a joke, right? You just restart it and shut it down, and we all giggled about, if your car did that, there'd be no way that we'd ever buy one like this. And how much software now is built into these new vehicles is kind of crazy, and we're becoming that. Oh well, I started mine up and nothing's working right. Oh, we'll just shut it off and restart it. That'll reboot it. Or disconnect the batteries for a minute, and when you
Right.
reconnect them, it'll clear it.
Right.
We're there.
Right. You need a
That's
clear button.
nuts.
You just need a reset button
Yeah.
on it. Just
Reset. Yeah.
reset.
I mean,
Hit
reboot.
Control Alt Delete.
Yeah. Please wait. I'm rebooting my car. Yeah.
It's light flashes when you're in the middle of an intersection. Sorry, rebooting.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I've got to reboot. It's I'll be good. Just 1 second.
It is true. And in the world of Tesla, what Tesla has proven is that you get updates every day, right, on your car. Like when your car is plugged in, sitting in your garage, Tesla's updating your software. Now, the cool side about that is because they're a good company, that's cool updates, right? And a lot of good stuff. Hey, guess what?
Right.
Your car can now do this. Here's a new game for you to play while you're driving and you shouldn't be playing. But there's versus the other side of it, the not so good companies, right? Government motors and who could be doing software updates like, well, yeah, we just installed spy software. Oh yeah, we just installed a new GPS tractor. Or we just installed, the government asked us to put a back door in so they can see where, and think about how they know they can target too. So now let's go very, very deep into the dark conspiracy theories. Yeah, we just got a FISA warrant to be able to install a tracker and monitoring device specifically on your car that we're going to be able to know everything you do now for the next 3 days, like talking, everything's tracked. Just think about that.
How about this? We can turn your car off remotely.
Right. We can control your car. There was, what was it? The Fate of the Furious, as that was the Fast and Furious movie. I think it was Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
Where they hijacked all the electric cars and started having them the possibility of being able to get these self-driving cars and hijack them and be able to cause incredible damage and be able to, it's there. It's just a computer.
It's
any
been
computer
Just
can
a
be hacked.
computer.
Just a computer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
well,
is it?
Users
The
software.
electromagnetic pulse or whatever that for warfare you can
EMP,
shut down
yeah.
all the electronic device. Yeah, an EMP and yeah.
Speaking of EMP, I have all these segues. Speaking of EMP, this is kind of funny you say that. This is totally off the subject, but I watched a pretty interesting movie called Moonfall. It's a sci-fi movie. It's kind of a funky, fun sci-fi movie. It's called Moonfall, and it's about the moon falling out of orbit and
Oh.
falling towards Earth. I won't give any spoilers here because there's very interesting reasons why that there's some very, very sci-fi reasons why as to why it's falling and all this stuff. But I just wanted to get that plug out there. I think it was a fun movie to watch. So it's out there. I think I streamed it. I don't know if it was on Prime or on Netflix, one of those two that I streamed it, but it's called Moonfall. And it's just a fun, it's along the lines of was it 2012 and some of these other movies
Oh yeah.
all about that, end of the world type stuff happening where it's, craziness. There's absolutely no way that this car did that to get away from it. No, it could have gotten crushed by rocks, and it's just fun to watch. So little plug out there.
Interesting
Moonfall.
timing. Interesting timing considering what NASA still can't get the rocket off the launch pad to go to the moon.
Right. Which just feeds the conspiracy theories there. You didn't do it the first time, did you?
Uh-huh.
We're
It turns
trying
out,
all these years later. We're trying.
it's funny. It turns out Joe Rogan, who's evolved over the years, was a moon denier a long time ago. Like he
Oh.
actually, and he debated this. Like he had a pretty good understanding, and he debated it. Now he's come to learn differently about things in life, but he was a moon denier in some of his early show stuff. Was that there's no possible way. I mean, I understand show business. All of this is fake. But this movie ties into that a little bit too, which is kind of interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
it's a very, very just a fun little movie. I watched just for the fun of it, watching it. And again, it's the craziness of a sci-fi movie that's supposed to be fun and unrealistic, but it's still a good movie. So that's my plug.
Well, that's your plug.
That's my plug.
Well,
Good.
you guys just released some more. Metalcloak just released some more pretty cool garage products.
We did. We've got the power tool holder set, and then last night at like 1 a.m. I launched the paint can. We call it the rattle can set, but really it's just a spray can set. So it holds
Nice.
5 spray cans, hangs on your wall, hangs on a toolbox, hangs in we know that guys do these type of things inside of their race trailers, right? So
Right.
it's just easy thing, bolts up, and you can put your spray cans in there to easy access. So it holds five your normal size spray cans. Just another one of these things that we're doing, all these little garage project stuff, just because we can, right? When you laser cut it, you bend it, you gold zinc it, and you sell it. And it's so we have, and there's several more coming down.
I think it's awesome.
Well, we're talking about the 4xe. We actually,
as we get into the. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, we're talking about the 4xe and the electrics. One of the things coming down the pike, and it's in production now. We're just becoming alive with it. Is just literally just a cord holder for your 4xe. Like if you happen to have a 4xe or something else, it's just a wall hanging cord holder. So it holds the cord for that, right? Little things like that. That's coming. We got a coat hanger system coming up, right? Like a cool little thing you hang on the wall and just change your coats and just that. We've got fun stuff that just it's cool because we actually have an industrial designer that works for us, young kid. So he's not an engineer, so he's not developing suspension stuff, but he's an industrial designer, and he actually joined us originally in our production department. And then we learned more about him and gave him a couple of projects, and he started doing things. So all these little stuff coming out that he's doing is more industrial design that doesn't take a lot of understanding of suspension dynamics or other things. It's just understanding how to design something, laser cut it, brake press it, and do it. So he's doing little fun projects like that. He's the one who did the bird feeder hanger. And then the other little garage stuff that were coming out. And there's a whole little slew of those things that are going to be coming out over the next few months.
Well, I think those are, talk about, we're in that time of year, and I'm going to say it, and I shouldn't, but Christmas is coming. which is just wild.
Yeah,
But
wait.
yeah,
Costco. Thankfully, Costco is still focused on Halloween right now.
Halloween. Yeah.
The change is but it's gonna be done. They're gonna skip Thanksgiving right to Christmas.
Yep.
Well, and I was just we were reading this morning about some updates that are coming to SEMA, and there's new categories coming into SEMA regarding electric vehicles, whole new sections of SEMA are going to be dedicated to those kind of things, as well as accessories. There's an accessory, and I have a feeling it's going to lean more towards things for your trailer, your garage, your again, it's the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers Association. So wouldn't all of these things be specialty equipment? It's been so focused over the years on new technology in cars, but I think that it's kind of expanding its focus, and it'll be interesting to see what new things come about this year. It's weird to me still, with all of the changes economically in the country, that it seems like a lot of shops and a lot of manufacturers and a lot of little places are growing. They're still expanding. They're still making stuff faster than they ever have, better than they ever have. And yet, the stock market took a hit this week, and things we all kind of wonder where we're going. And yet things are still really busy. Moab is still really busy. The San Juan Mountains are still really busy. So if you're not haven't taken advantage of getting outside and seeing some things this year, you need to. I hope that our trails are still around for many, many more years. But folks are definitely, some are taking advantage of getting outside. Hopefully more and more of us, we'd like to see more and more of you on the trail. I think this group can attest to, you don't have to do the extreme things. You can literally drive around through some of these areas, especially in the West, and enjoy some still good weather for a little bit. Get off road.
Get off road. Get out.
Responsibly.
Responsibly.
Do things.
Do things. Be smart.
Look
Don't
over
be
the side of
stupid.
the cliff.
Right.
Don't be stupid.
Yeah. Don't be
Don't be
stupid.
stupid.
Do things responsibly. Tread lightly. All those things. But do the things for sure.
By the way, I have a question.
Yes.
If the new electric Jeep's called the Recon, does that mean there's never going to be a Wrangler Recon again?
I kind of came across some of that, and they were like, wait a minute, what happened to we already had a Recon. Why do they change it to now we're going to have a Recon? We had a Wrangler Recon edition.
Yeah.
Lots.
So you have a Recon. No, I have that Recon. Wait. Oh, you have that Recon. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just
what Recon?
The Renegade Recon.
Way to create confusion, Jeep. Although, all the badging and stuff says, it's like, well, this is a pre-production model. It might actually change. Like, who knows what it'll actually be when they get into production and realize they have to make this thing. But it is interesting.
For sure.
Well, guys, so what's your plans today?
I'm going to take these guys out to a portion of what we typically do for our Moab adventure. We're just going to run probably the half of 7 Mile Rim, and then Jessy and I are headed back. We have Texas next week, so we'll be headed to the Palo Duro Challenge CTI event down there in Texas, and then we haven't stopped a whole lot. It's between maintaining vehicles and making sure things are all running and so if you're in Texas, you're in the Amarillo area, the Palo Duro Challenge starts next week, and we'll be down there and then back home for a bit. Then we have a really cool trip that I'll talk about later that we've been invited to participate in. Jesse's going to actually spend some time over in Moab with the Ladies Off-Road Network with Charlene, and doing some training and stuff over here in Moab. So And these guys, I don't know if they're ever going home. I don't know what they're doing.
What about
We've
your house?
adopted them.
I wouldn't if I were them. I mean, come on.
I've already called in sick for the next 3 months.
That's it. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot going on, and that's great. And that's always wonderful to see everything that's going on. It's good to have Philip and Curtis around, because I want to reiterate how awesome you guys all were out there in Pigeon Forge. Just all of you. Not only just it was my first time seeing it, but it just being floored by the whole thing, but just doing it. Now, I will have to say that I just saw this. I think it's the Detroit Auto Show. Is that the one that's coming up here? They decided to embrace the world of duck. There is a giant rubber ducky, giant, like the size of like 5-6 Jeeps stacked up, giant rubber ducky at the auto show.
Interesting.
They're embracing Jeep is embracing the duck. Maybe,
Well,
maybe we'll have a rubber duck edition.
Right. I wanna make some ducks.
if you can't fight it,
Yeah, right. Join it.
yeah.
Rubber duck edition, or maybe they'll start putting little like rubber duck holders. Like this is where you can put your rubber ducky, right?
Oh, they have those.
Yeah.
Have
Well,
you not seen those?
I have not seen rubber ducker holders. No.
So there's a little disc or pedestal underneath the mirror you can install so it says place duck here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the rubber ducky
Yeah.
launcher. I just want a launcher.
Launcher,
I still
yes.
gotta find the Trump duck.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah,
one
there's a
of
couple of really creative ducks out there that people are starting to show up with. So
those. He's got the Gene
who knows?
Simmons
We
duck.
should have gotten into the duck plant stock thing.
I'm waiting for the pirate duck.
There you go.
Yep.
Pirate
Yeah,
4x4
for folks
duck.
who aren't watching the YouTube video, well, you're probably going to just have to watch the
YouTube video and see what I meant
see
by
what the
pirate duck.
is all about.
Yes, it.
Yes,
And if you know Pirate 4x4, you can instantly guess what that was about.
right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I have to, like I said, I have to order another run of ducks. So it's going to be fun. I'll probably take them out to Off-Road Expo, which is coming up
There you go.
1st and 2nd. We'll be out there. First
Yeah.
time. We haven't been there in several years. We did not go to Off-Road Expo when it was at the other
The
center,
other place.
So location. I can't remember what it is by the airport.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it
Ontario.
wasn't the
Ontario
Ontario,
Convention
there you
Center.
go. Yeah.
We didn't do that because I've done many events at Ontario Convention Center because I've run a trade show that was out there, and I just couldn't visualize it. I just couldn't picture how it was going to possibly be a good show. So we simply avoided it. But we're back in our same booth as
Cool.
we're usually at. You'll find us at Off-Road Expo. We'll be there. I'm probably going to have. Right now, the plan is to have the Gladiator and the 4xe in the booth. So,
Cool.
And then new booth backdrop, blah, blah, blah. So it should be fun while you guys are off doing everything else you're doing. And then I'm still planning
Well,
on. Go ahead.
We will have Death Valley registration, I believe, is open. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I keep getting updates from the National Park Service. So just for those who are wondering what's going on out there with the flooding, they did have some more flooding. They're diligently working on getting things opened back up out there. So this year it could be really interesting. We could do some real rock landing depending on some of these washes and the roads that have flooded in Death Valley. But I'm as always looking super forward to it. It'll definitely be an adventure this year.
Yeah.
And speaking about rock landing and rock lander, we're getting close to the end of the chapters, I think, of Rocklander. And I think right now in the latest chapter that's about to go live, he's in Ballarat. He ends up in Ballarat because his motorcycle broke down. And then he's still searching for where his Gladiator ended up. So if you're not getting the Rocklander adventures, go over to AdventureRackSystems.com, click on the contact us page, and sign up for their email list, because that's how you get to have early access to the courageous adventures of the exciting and courageous adventures of Rocklander.
There you go.
Yes. All right. That's all my plugs. You guys,
I'm plugged.
listen,
I'm plugged up too. So
that's like a whole nother
Oh,
problem.
God.
They make Pepto-Bismol for that. So all of you, hey, guys, good seeing you again, Philip and Curtis and Corey and Jessy. Thank you again for joining us. And for all of our listeners and fans out there, you know how to reach us. Matson at Metalcloak.com, Corey at Metalcloak.com, Jessy at Metalcloak.com. Ideas, suggestions, and even an occasional rant. We love it. Just send it out to us, and we'd love to hear from you. Of course, ModernJeeperAdventures.com to register for the Death Valley experience. This will be a unique one to go to, too, because of the difficulties out there. It's going to be great because it's going to be a little different. And you should definitely, every one of them is different anyway. But if you have any inclination, I'm still looking at trying to bring Jack out. So I'm hoping to be out there. So if you have any inclination, if you want to go out there, hang out with Corey and Jessy, or hang out with me, maybe you should be doing that. So register now. There's a few spots available. We still have our October Skills Day is sold out. Off-Road Expo will be at, and then we got SEMA. I mean, there's just so much coming up in the next few months. And make sure to catch Corey and Jessy at the Paladuro Challenge too. And that, I think, is all.
That's it, my friend.
That's it. All right, Modern Jeepers. We'll see you on the trails.
Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.